Yeah, so it was funny because I had a completely different book in mind. There's a Brubaker Phillips book that came out a month or so ago. The whole graphic novel, OGN. The title is eluding me at the moment, but I was planning on doing that. But then as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, well, we've done a lot of Brubaker Phillips lately. Let me just go peruse my bookshelf because I've got a huge collection of graphic novels, most of which I have read, but there are some that I have purchased and just haven't gotten to yet. And so I'm looking at it, and I had it down between the book that I'm about to discuss, as well as Planet Hulk, which is supposed to be a very, very good series, which I'm looking forward to reading one day and hopefully talking about on the show. But the book that I chose was Green Arrow Year One. I can't remember when I bought this. It's definitely a couple of years ago because this has been out for a while. I believe 2007, and then with the series started, and then the graphic, the first trade came out in 2008 or something like that, 2009. But this was written by Andy Diggle, with art by Jock,
What a team.
right? With colors by David Barron and letters by Jared K. Fletcher. So, how did socialite Oliver Queen become the brave hero known as Green Arrow? Find out in this trade paperback volume collecting the 6-issue Origin miniseries. From the creative team behind the critically acclaimed Vertigo series, The Losers, reunites and explores Ollie's time on an island where he's forced to fight for his life against dangerous drug dealers and find his true calling. So, Green Arrow, part of the reason why I bought this book and why I chose to read it is I'm not a huge, I sort of, obviously between the bow and arrow comparisons, but characters like Green Arrow, like Hawkeye, some of these sort of B level, characters, like I know of them. I've never really sat down and be like, oh, I'm going to read a Green Arrow series. I'm going to go, pick up a Hawkeye series. And yet I read the Hawkeye.
Yeah.
It was written by Matt Hawkins. It was fantastic. And a lot of that had to do on the show that we both liked. And
Yeah, a
so,
lot. But I
right,
understand you're more of a Gimli guy. I get it.
right. And in both looks and fandom. Um, Thank you for derailing me there. But like I watched the show, right? I watched the CW show Arrow. I got through the first couple seasons, then it lost me. I guess it ended pretty okay. They got into the Kingdom Come storyline at some point. But anyways, like okay, like it was a good show, especially for being on the CW. But the character was like, okay, it's an interesting character. And so like reading this, like this is a great book. This is a great example of like, okay, here's a character you may be familiar with that, yeah, you know kind of like what their origin story is about. It's nothing wildly complicated. He's not a superhero, so to speak, right? He doesn't have superpowers or anything like that. He's just a really kind of cool character. And this series is a great entryway into the character, and really gives you sort of great understanding of who he is, how he came to be, right? As any good origin story would do. And I found this book to be thoroughly enjoyable, like hands down. My nephew's never read Green Arrow. I don't think he's heard of Green Arrow, but he probably doesn't give two poops of Green Arrow. I give him this book. I bet he'd enjoy it very much, right? Anyone that's sort of getting into comics that maybe their passion is the big two, whether it's Marvel or DC. I know that like we really get into the weeds with the independent books, and we do that because we love the stories and the creators and everything about that. So we actually don't do a ton of Marvel and DC. But like someone who's getting into comics, maybe for the first time, a younger reader, these are the types of books that I think are great entryways into giving them something different that I think they'd enjoy. Like there's 1,000 Spider-Man books, there's 1,000 Batman books, Superman, X-Men, you name it, right? Um, and we all love those characters, but if like I feel like doing something like this, starting to introduce someone like a newer comic book reader into some of these second tier characters with these really cool stories is almost like a great gateway into like, okay, let's start exploring some more independent stuff now.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree. Very much so.
Right. So I thought this was an excellent origin story of Green Arrow. You know, what Diggle does here is I think he when creating, well, not creating this character, but when writing his version of this character in the origin story, he sort of takes like the worst parts of Tony Stark, like the human being, not the hero. And he takes all the playboy aspects from Bruce Wayne and perfectly sort of combines them into this character. Right, the first issue, you know, Oliver Queen he's a fucking putz, right? And you're kind of actively rooting against him. Like he's that kind of slick back hair, you know, slopping his steaks.
Oh boy,
you know, right?
Lives for New Year's Eve.
Yeah, definitely lives for New Year's Eve, right? And so the way the book starts is he's just a complete asshole, right? Just this, you know, rich playboy, just minus the philanthropy part, right? He only cares about himself. But there's at an auction, and there's a bow that was used in the movie Robin Hood, by the actor Errol Flynn, the OG Robin Hood, not the Disney Fox. Although that is one of my preferred versions of Robin Hood.
That's my hashtag my Robin Hood.
100%. That's your Robin Hood? No, it's not Kevin Costner?
Oh, yeah. No. It's the Fox. 100%.
So the bidding for this bow starts at $1,000, and this dickhead just shoots right to 100,000. And so like from there, like you're introduced to him, you're introduced to his sort of bodyguard Hackett, his driver bodyguard, sort of like I wouldn't call him his Alfred because we fucking love Alfred, and this guy Hackett, he's another real fucking piece of shit. And so from there, they end up, Hackett has this thing he needs to do, and he needs to like step away for a little bit, but Oliver was like, no, let's make us a trip together. We'll get on my yacht, we'll do this thing. And they're out at sea, and Oliver wasn't supposed to be there because this guy Hackett has stolen a shit ton of his money and was making a deal with someone, and has to, now dispose of Oliver Queen. Talk about being at the wrong place at the wrong time. And so classic, the thing that this guy should do is kill Oliver Queen, but he has a little bit of sympathy, so he just like knocks him out and throws him overboard, assuming he's going to drown. And this is where the origin really begins, where he washes up ashore on this sort of mysterious island. And when he gets there, there's sort of these charred remains of a village he finds a well because he needs water. But in that well is nothing but dead bodies. So he spends the next several months really learning how to survive, right? He fashions himself a bow and arrow so he can hunt. And then he stumbles upon something much, much bigger. And this is where the story then really sort of takes off. And we see that switch from just selfish prick, character into the Green Arrow that we are all familiar with, and the reasons why he's fighting are noble, and it's very selfless, and it's really badass to sort of see now this chess game between him and what turns out to be an island that is it's owned by a Chinese drug lord who uses it to grow poppies to sell or to make heroin, which they then distribute, to the world. And so, it becomes Oliver's mission to then save, the people on the island that have to, they've been enslaved to this work. And so like, what's really great about it is like Diggle's writing is just the way he ties everything together. He pulls it all around. It's a tight 6 issues. It reads really fast. It's a great origin story. Jock's art. I mean, if you're not familiar with Jock, you should be, because his art is just like it's really clean. He knows how to do great action scenes. He sucks you right in, to the storytelling. Like his art is, next level, sort of stuff. And then like you go from really, really hating this guy to then, obviously you're really, really rooting for him. And I love that Green Arrow is not a superhero. He wasn't given this origin story where he's got like he was always blessed with tremendous vision or anything like that. He's like, this is a guy who was forced to survive, on his own, and the shit that he learns about himself, and the way that his character changes from the issue 1 to issue 6, is what you want in a story. So, like I said, like this is a book like you can give to someone who's like, oh yeah, I've heard of Green Arrow. Oh, well, read this. I think you'll really, you really like the character from there. And it's great because now like I'm more interested in wanting to read more, Green Arrow, books, and seeing what creative teams are behind them and all that. So just this is, like I said, this is a great entry book for new comic book readers that will hopefully spawn them to go want to explore other secondary type characters. And like I said, we don't talk a lot of Marvel and DC books on here. And so this is a great opportunity to sort of explore characters that we necessarily probably wouldn't talk about on this show. But deserves it. And so I just recommend this to any DC fan out there, any green, fringe Green Arrow fan, or someone that's completely new to comics and or the character. This was a great little book.
Yeah. So oddly enough, I mean, so I do like Green Arrow quite a bit, and I've read actually Benjamin Percy's done some Green Arrow in the past, and I did enjoy his work.
Check that out now.
Yeah, and but I have not read this. But it's honestly a shame that I haven't. This sounds awesome, and like the thing too with Green Arrow, where like if you like Batman, I know you could easily say like, oh, well, him and Green Arrow, like how different are they? Obviously, Batman is like the most prepared individual there is, but they like over the years, like people talk about how like Batman is almost more for like the wealthy in what he does. Green Arrow tries to be the opposite, and I don't think Batman. I don't think Batman wants to be that. But that's just how some people perceive him. Green Arrow is not that, so it's an interesting character to check out if you like Batman, or if you think Batman isn't whatever it makes him out to be. There's something to check out there. And also on the note of Jock 2, where we've seen him do some really cool Batman stuff. I actually never. Like as you're talking about it, I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? This like in the setting too for where Green Arrow is, like I could see Jock absolutely crushing it on Green Arrow. So like visually, that sounds outstanding.
And you know what Jock does really well too is he does landscapes really well. He has this ability to, again, not just suck you in, but like give you this sort of grand feeling that you're in someplace much bigger. Right. I can't remember the name of the title, but the book he did with Scott Snyder over at Comixology. No, it wasn't Snyder. It was it was
Snow Angels.
Snow Angels with Lemire. Yep. Right. Like he just had like the way he draws landscapes, right? He just has this ability to like just make things feel epic. Right.
Yeah.
And he does a great job on this too, where the story primarily takes place on this small island. There's some shots that he draws where like, whew, wow, you kind of feel like you're there.
Yeah, that's some cool stuff. The other thing too that I have to come clean on. So this weekend when I was with the in-laws, we watched Tommy Boy, of course, classic. And when you brought up the name Hackett, I couldn't help but think of Buddy Wackett. And I was, God damn,
was that Tommy Boy or was that Black Sheep?
It's Tommy Boy. I promise it was. It's just like it's when it's when Richard is at the pool and everything. Sinner.
Yeah.
Richard, who's your favorite little rascal? Is it Alfalfa or Spanky? Chris Farley, man, amazing.
Yeah, that's right.
What a pair, those two. Yeah. Anyways, don't get any ideas when we go to Chicago.